Well, Superstorm Sandy may have brought disaster, but it also brought inspiration. In this case, to a sixth grader, young Payton Robertson invented a newfangled sandbag that, get this, has no sand in it. And according to experts, in the future, it could save thousands of lives. Here's the explanation from the 11-year-old himself.
Floods are the most common natural disaster in the United States. Many devastating recent floods have been saltwater floods caused by hurricanes or storms bringing ocean water on shore.
Saltwater flood damage from Sandy affected more than 40 million families. 80% of the $43 billion of flood damage since 2005 has been caused by saltwater flooding. Traditional sandbags are heavy and leave gaps between individual bags.
My name is Payton Robertson, and I've developed a new type of sandbag to reduce saltwater flood damage. But instead of using sand, I filled it with just the right amount of ultra-absorbent polymer to make the bag fully expand. I also added enough salt to the bag to make the water inside have a higher salt content and therefore be heavier than the approaching seawater.
Seawater, the non-colored water, is heavier than tap water, the blue water, because seawater has a salt content of 3.5%. I concluded that the bag should be pre-filled with enough salt to make the water inside the bags have a 10% salt content and thus be heavier than seawater. To calculate the exact amount of polymer to pre-fill the bags with, I calculated the exact swell rate of superabsorbent polymer when exposed to 10% salt water. After repeating the experiment multiple times, the swell rate was consistently 200%. Assuming a swell rate of 200%, I calculated how much polymer and salt to pre-fill the bags with. I used Scotch fasteners to connect the individual bags at the midpoint of the bag in the row above it and below it. So as the polymer expands, it will fill in all empty spaces.
To test my system, I created a prototype of my sandbag and tested it against sandbags I bought at the store.
In the test, the prototype held back salt water much more effectively than traditional sandbags. After the flood, let the water evaporate and store the bags.
This new system is lighter, more effective, and more transportable. My hopes is that this system will reduce flood damage in the future.
Well, Payton is not the only kid thinking about the future, and isn't he adorable? Very smart, too. Inspired by the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School, a team of students from Benjamin Banneker High School in Washington, D.C. came up with an idea to stop school shooters. It's a special lock called a dead stop, and believe it or not, this kid invention is now getting patented. Anjreyev Harvey is one of those creative students, and she joins us now via Skype from Washington, D.C. Anjreyev, hi, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for taking some time to be on Arise America. And let me just say, congratulations. How does it feel to be an inventor?
It feels pretty good, actually. Thank you.
You're just adorable. So tell me how this came about. I can only imagine what it was like for you as a student to watch the news coverage of the tragic shooting at Sandy Hook. What was that like for you and your classmates as you watched that?
It was very devastating, actually, because when we first heard about it, we had a school meeting, as we usually do when events like this happen. And since we're students ourselves, we want to be safe as well as the kids that are in elementary school. So we really wanted to protect the smaller kids because the smaller kids are our future.
Can you tell me about the conversation that led to the invention of the dead stop? I mean, was this you guys sitting around at the lunch table, or did your teacher give you an assignment? How did it come to be?
Well, since our invent team was previously our robotics team, we were in our robotics room and we were talking about the event. And then my teacher, Mr. Mahoney, who's in charge of the robotics team, he said we should try and come up with something that will try and prevent shootings from happening in elementary schools.
And so you guys just begin to have a discussion. Did you first pick out a need, or how did you do it? Just tell me about the process.
Well, when we first started out, we just started staring at the door actually for a long time and opening and closing it. And then we realized that the hinge on the top of the door was the main reason how the door could open and close. So we decided if there was a way we could just stop that from opening, then therefore we could stop the door from opening overall.
That's just amazing, and as I understand it, there are attorneys that are giving their time to you guys for free to patent this device. Your parents and your family have to be so proud of you, all of your parents and family, right?
Yes.
And I imagine you're getting an A in that class, yes?
Oh, I actually don't take Mr. Mahoney for math.
Oh, goodness. Well, you should, because I think you would get an A. Do you have advice for other students? First of all, let's talk about the creative process. For other kids who are out there, what would be your advice to them on how they could do something to make a difference?
Well, if you have an idea, don't just give up on it. You have to pursue your idea and talk to others about it, and therefore they might be able to help you, and then that way you can start doing something to impact the environment.
And by the way, what do you want to be when you get older, Anjreyev?
I want to be a veterinarian.
Yes, that's what I heard. Very good. It's a great profession. Well, I think judging by your accomplishments already, you can be any darn thing you set out to be. So as my grandmother would say, you just keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
Reeve Harvey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We move on to an endless debate. How much TV should you let your children watch? Now, with the new onslaught of media devices like iPads and smartphones, is there any escape from it? Here's what the American Association of Pediatrics has determined in terms of children and media use. The average 8 to 10-year-old spends a whopping 8 hours a day with media. Older children and teens are even higher at 11 hours a day. Now, with us, as you think about those big numbers, from Minneapolis is the co-author of a new AAP, or American Academy of Pediatrics policy, to help parents combat these statistics. She is Dr. Marjorie Hogan, and she joins us via Skype. Dr. Hogan, thank you so much for being with us on Arise America.
It's a pleasure.
You know, I think it's been a conventional wisdom. It's been an understanding for a long, long time that parents should limit the amount of television that their children consume. Why is it important to also limit other screen time, if you will, other devices and technology?
Well, as you know, we are living in a world where media is evolving very, very rapidly. And although television is still the predominant medium that children use, cell phones, iPads, handheld devices are all gaining popularity and in time of use.
And what are you seeing in the research that is out there? What difference does it make for children who spend an inordinate amount of time, whether it's watching television or on these other devices?
Yeah, the research is actually pretty clear, and it's fairly alarming. We know that excessive media use for some children can be associated with obesity. We have an obesity epidemic in our country at this time. It's associated with problems in school performance, with aggressive behavior, and we now are learning through research that lack of sleep can be associated with children using screens, including cell phones, late at night.
Yeah, it's just incredible, and it seems almost impossible to control, but the American Academy of Pediatrics did come out with some recommendations, and we're going to go through 3 of them, and I want you to talk about them one at a time. The first one is model effective, quote, media diets. What does that mean?
I actually love that because it's very analogous to the healthy food diet that we talk to parents about. You know, we recommend that they offer milk and water and fresh fruits and vegetables and so on and so on. That's a healthy diet. Limiting the foods, maybe not completely eliminating them, but limiting the foods that are less healthy. The same with a healthy media diet. We recommend that parents and kids together carefully choose positive pro-social programming. And we know that there's a lot of good programming out there. Really limiting the programming that could cause more negative health risks.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Make a media use plan. What's the recommendation there?
This is new, and this is encouraging families to sit down together and really think about media in a new way. How much time should we spend with media? Well, you know, we recommend less than 1 to 2 hours a day for older children, basically discouraging media time for kids under 2. But then quality. What kind of media should we use as a family? How should parents be involved in co-viewing? And then the location. We really recommend strongly that there are not TV screens in kids' bedrooms. We know that that's a problem. And at the same time, I want to let parents know that we have wonderful tips for families to make a media use plan on our healthychildren.org website. Very helpful.
Okay, great. And then the last recommendation, you've covered this just a little bit, and that is limit entertainment screen time.
Yeah.
So as you already said, so what the child consumes makes a difference, whether or not it's educational or just pure entertainment.
Absolutely. When children are looking up important themes for school projects, or they're excited to learn about dinosaurs, or they're learning about, a new country far away for a school project, that's wonderful. And the internet is a wealth of information. What we're talking about is time, that's spent with screens as entertainment solely. There's so many other ways children should be spending their time in addition to watching good pro-social programming.
A couple of things I want to try to get to before I have to let you go. And first of all, I want to go back a little bit. You already mentioned, and that is no screen time at all for children under the age of 2. What does the research show that is happening with that infant to 2-year-old that it's important not to have any screen time?
And again, I want to emphasize that we use the word discourage screen time. We know that in this world, there's no way to completely keep screens away from little ones. It's part of our world. But we want parents to think very carefully about deliberately exposing kids to screen time when they're that young. The research is evolving, but it suggests that exposing really, really little ones to excessive screen time can cause language delay, can cause later problems with attention. And of course, it takes them away from the things we know are important, which is interacting with a real live human being, talking, reading, active play, all the things that allow children to develop normally.
And on the other end of the spectrum, and that's our teens, and we know that they practically live with their head down and their thumbs going, texting. Talk about the effects of that and what parents can do, what the concerns might be there.
Yeah. I can't emphasize enough how important our teens are, and being connected with other friends, whether it's by cell phone, social media, Facebook, is a wonderful thing. But it has to, again, be done with some limits and some parent involvement. We want to teach kids early on that it's important to have face-to-face interaction with people, that texting, internet, communication is important, but should be limited. And we know that teens, some of them text upwards of hundreds of times a day, taking the time away from some really important things they could be doing. We also know that it's not uncommon for kids to send and receive sexual texts, sexual images. So parents really need to be involved in setting some ground rules about how their young kids and their teens interface with media.
Indeed. We'll have to stop right there. Dr. Marjorie Hogan, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And you are watching Arise America.